Hello, my friends and family. We are live once again. We are back, and I have some amazing guests, and there is much to discuss. There's a lot of people, um, obviously, in distress over recent current events, and we're gonna break down some underlying causes. And you guys see the title of the video as well. I think RBN has been spearheading the leftist discourse on how we should be challenging the police state. At least I believe so. But before we dive into that, I do want to get my good friend. We got Carlos Gallego. We got Zoya is love. You guys know my amazing co-host Zoya is love. I'm glad that you guys are able to join us today. Carlos, my amazing academic friend. Is it English? Are you a professor of English? What exactly that?
English and race and ethnic studies.
Yeah, your audio's still a little bit low.
I'll work on this.
Yeah, that's cool. Zoya, how you doing, my friend?
Fantastic. Happy to be here. We're going to take down the establishment one receipt at a time today.
Like we always do. Because I knew I was gonna be yelling at the police state, and whenever I yell at the police state, you guys know who I gotta bring with me. I gotta bring my friend Zoya's love, Zoya's life. She co-founded 10 Demands with me, and and when I told you guys these police officers are cowards, and we're gonna get into that later. Don't ever listen to anything the police says, because all their early reports after the shooting, it was proven that they was lying. They was lying about the gunmen having body armor. They engaged them, allowed them to enter the school and kill children because they're cowards. And we're gonna go through that entire story. And there's a lot of discourse going on with bourgeoisie clowns, as far as I'm concerned. And I would love to get your guys' thoughts in chat. We're gonna talk about this with Carlos and Zoya as well. I saw CJ was tweeting about it. Um, we're not disarming until the police disarm. Like once you disarm the police, once you disarm the military, like we keeping the proletariat armed. And there are a lot of people who are shifting the conversation to that instead of the real problem, the toxic society that we live in. And the right wing, they always complain like, "Oh my God, you guys are politicizing these events." And I never understood that criticism. I politicize everything. Life is politics. Everything that you see in your life is related to politics. And as a Marxist, as an anti-capitalist, I try to take any opportunity I can to drag people to my side, right? And when you see people question our society, and like, how is it possible that we have all these shootings? And I was mentioning with my debate with Destiny, like there's so many people who they take all these pills and they think, oh, well, I guess everything's going great now. I guess our society is great now. I'm gonna play this clip because this clip is related to the toxic society that we live in. Then I'm gonna get Carlos and I'm gonna get Zoya in here. And let me pull this up. I'm gonna play this a little bit earlier, but let's do it now.
Well,
So we
honestly, I
actually got
think that most people in America are living in a pretty functioning society. No,
no. Well, if you like the 60% of workers that live in paycheck to paycheck, I don't know when the last time you had to, but that is not easy existence. And I'm speaking as someone who's a member of the proletariat, someone who grew up broke, who I literally housed 3 people in the last 2 years who otherwise would have been
hmm
homeless. One
sure,
of
and
them,
that I mean,
one
like
of them
there
was
are.
my cousin who worked 70 hours a week, but he was literally on the verge of being homeless, can't afford a car. What kind of existence is this? We
Mhm.
live pathetic lives. People literally work 60 hours a week. They come home, they watch Netflix, and they think we live in advanced society. How we advance? We don't have health care. How we advance if people can't travel? How we advance if people don't have family paid maternity leave? That's decolonizing your mind. The things that you guys think make you happy is not, which is why depression rates is through the roof, which is
Mhm.
why they subscribe you guys these pills, and you guys take these pills like, oh, everything's going okay. I guess I'm happy now. No, this society is so broken, it broke your brain. Your brain is so broken that everyone taking depression pills now because our society is junk. Now, I'm gonna get Zoya and Carlos in here, but before you guys start, because there are always people that say this when I bring up this point. If you're on depression meds, right, and you're depressed and you have chemical imbalances in your brain, I believe that's legitimate. I'm not saying that your illness is not illegitimate. I am saying I believe there have been a coordinated effort by capitalists to blame your depression on your body being broken instead of the fact that our society that we live in is inherently unnatural. for the reasons I explained there. People working. Remember Zoya, the textbook we saw from Germany when they were explaining how Americans live. They see us as very lonely, isolated individuals that live kind of a pathetic existence. Now, you guys know I always like to start these shows with my monologue, and I want to start out this way because, as a Marxist, this is how I'm addressing this issue. How can we like? And there are some crazy people. I don't want to discount that as well, but how about get the mental health care? There are a lot of liberals that are like, oh my God, mental health. Are you fun? Do you have a healthcare plan that finances mental health? Like Medicare for All, for example? I just want people to walk the walk instead of just pretending they care, especially in these moments of tragedy and disaster. I want to get Carlos in here. Hopefully we get your audio a little bit higher though. You want to chime in?
How is it now?
It's still a little bit lower. Do you want to, maybe if you take the earphones off, maybe it might help?
I guess I'm gonna.
Oh shit! Let's go.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I thought you I saw you made an adjustment. That's when the audio messed up. I don't know what happened. And just try to refresh. And then because the audio was good, and then you made an adjustment earlier, and then it made it low. Yeah, this is a comment. I just saw a comment on the corner of my eye just now. It's natural to feel maladjusted to a sick society. And that is what they do. They take children who they may be physical and active learners. I am one of these people, I'm telling you. The classroom was not for me. Our education system, which was designed to create worker ants, that was not for me. Like there was other ways that could have piqued my interest in growth and development, as you guys see now. Right. And there are a lot of people who our society wants to be whipped in this authoritarian way that turns us to factory robots. And then if you deviate from that, if you're like, man, I really don't like 50-hour, like these 50-hour a week jobs where I stay in one little cubicle doing one little motion for 9 hours, man, this is killing me. You get depressed, and now they say, oh, something's wrong with you. let's subscribe you some medicine. It's not the society's fault. When you see kids who have a hard time paying attention because they are active learners, when you look at our ancestors, who, when they have children, they have active learning education systems. This new capitalist factory-built education system that we have is actually relatively new. That was designed by the Rockefellers, which is not natural way to learn. There are some people who succeed because their brain is wired that way, but there are some people who are not. There are some people who they did better learning in a hunter-gatherer sense, right? And maybe in a different society, in different culture, with a different education system, they probably would thrive, right? But instead, they don't really vibe well in this system, so they subscribe them, what is it, ADHD medicines and shit, right? They're like, oh, you don't pay attention. What are the drugs they be subscribing kids now in school? Like, it's crazy. They do it because the people are not naturally adjusted to this society. The society is broken. The society is depressing. But I want to introduce my friend, Josana. Are you joining? Are you ready? Thumbs up. You good to go? We have the GOAT is in the house. My amazing friend, Josana.
Hi.
Yeah, Adderall too. I was thinking about another one. That's definitely, they subscribe Adderall, ADHD, medicines to pretty much just make the kid more suitable towards this society that is meant to get you ready to be a worker. They got cops in schools, as we're about to cover here soon. I'm still kind of ranting here. But as we're going to cover here soon, they got cops in schools not to protect you, but to create the school to prison pipeline, to introduce people to the prison state, to train kids to be used to police presence, being harassed. That's the point, not to protect you. But my friend, Josana, I'm glad you're able to join us today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, as much as I can as a one unity person. I'm nice. I'm like finding a way to have balance and knowing and seeing all these horrible things that are happening right now, right, Nick? Like, how can one do fine? And like 15 children died in Texas. 25 people died in a police invasion in a favela in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. So it's a lot, but as a person, I'm doing fine. And I came here because yesterday, when we were announcing this horrible news, I was talking and I said, they are going to push gun control. I know I think I said the obvious, but today I woke up and they were.
Yeah, it's obvious what they're planning to do. I explained this concept so many times on RBN. They use tragedies, terrorism, domestic terrorism, white supremacy, and then they use that to expand state power. Then they turn that against black, brown people, workers, leftist movements, and that is what they are going to do. That's why I don't know how people continue to fall for this. They're the same Democratic Party is funding the police more, but are they stopping these shootings? Right. I got a story I'm gonna show you guys here soon. Eric Adams doubled down on expanding the NYPD police state, and now crime is actually up since he's taken over. This is a failed approach, and this is the time for us to have this conversation, right, Josana, Zoya?
I want
And
to
then,
say hi to Zoya also because I entered the room and they're here, and I just want to say hi, Zoya. How are
Hi,
you?
Anna. Good to see you.
yes, my two powerful friends, Josana and Zoya. This is about to be a great show, especially if we get Carlos back in here. So I think we can talk about the police now. Because you guys see the title of this video, and you guys know my ideology, the one that's too radical for cable. Well,
Hey,
police.
let me just add some, statistics to what you were saying. First of all, 37 million Americans are on antidepressants, which is a lot. And the United States, Colombia, and Ukraine tended to have higher prevalence across most classes of mental health disorders, while Nigeria, Shanghai, and Italy were consistently low, and prevalence was lower in Asian countries in general. So, those countries we constantly criticize in the media, they're doing
Yeah.
better with mental health.
So my question, and once again, if you're going through depression, I think that's real, because I think you're a victim, right? But I have questions when you see the increased rate of depression, right? And then they say, oh, well, it's because of biology. It's because your brain is not wired correctly. Okay, what happened in the last 50 years that only somehow impacts one region more than other regions? Like if it was biology, wouldn't it impact people evenly across different cultures? Why do you see a spike in depression in one society? And then they say, oh, well, it's because of brain disorders. Oh, what is it that is breaking the brains of one region just right now? I'm not saying that you're not really sick if you're on these medicines. I bet you there's a good percent. There's also a good percent of them that is just like, bro, shut the fuck up and get back to work. Shut up and get back to work. Stop bitching and provide productivity for us. This is a failed state, like my friend Eric Bridge just said in the chat, right? And they just medicate you to fall in line and not question it. And there's so many people that do. And I think this is a nuanced conversation because every time I say to people, like, oh my God, you're denying the science of depression. Did I say that? There's no point in what I'm saying that denying the science of depression. I'm saying our society is so broken, it is making people depressed. The idea that it's just brainwave, people brainwave are just off.
Nick,
Go ahead.
I wanna say something because I understand as a foreigner that the point of comparison in the United States is material, right? It has to do with material gains. So in my third world country, people dying from starvation, they are poor, they have nothing, it's awful. The number of massive shootings doesn't even put the country in a list. It's not because people don't have guns, because let's cut the crap. In a country where guns are forbidden, people will have guns otherwise. Remember, for those that smoke weed was not always legal. Weren't you smoking before the shit was legal? So I don't think like legislating against guns it's the solution.
You see
The thing is community. Yeah. I find it amusing how mass shootings in the USA always led to circular debate about legal guns. Practically every adult in Yemen, Lebanon, etc., owns a gun illegally. Mass poverty exists everywhere, but no mass shootings. The USA is unique amongst nations only in how sick it is. And yes, this is chef kiss. You know why? Lack of community. Divide and conquer, white supremacist propaganda, people listening in the house, kill the niggas, they're coming for us. The theory of the great replacement, they're coming for us. That's what's killing people. The lack of community, division. Don't mess with the Mexicans. Don't mess with the blacks. We don't mess with the whites. We don't. This I only saw here. And that's what is killing Americans, because the more separated I'm from you, the less I will know your struggles and you won't know mine. And we won't get to the common denominator, which is the real enemy. White supremacy, the government, Democrats and Republicans. So it's not I don't vote for Democrats, therefore I vote Republicans. It's I am out of the binary line of thought that makes me believe one is the savior and one is the devil. Sorry, I came in and it was like,
this panel about to be fire. This about to be a fun show. Let's get Carlos back in here. Hopefully we get the audio.
I can't hear you, Nick. I can hear Josana perfectly for some reason. But
Audio test. Can you hear me now?
so I'm gonna get another computer. I'll be back.
Yeah, just refresh because we can hear him well now. Damn, we need Carlos in here to spit some fire. Just try to refresh it and we might get that fixed. So you have anything you want to add, and then we can actually get to the bench story. I think we did a good intro discussion. You have anything you want to add before we dive into the story?
Well, 80% of opioid use is in this country too, to go away from prescription drugs. And I believe people who don't have adequate access to healthcare and are trying to self-medicate, go towards cheaper substances like opioids. So it's not about neglecting people's real mental health struggles, as you're saying, Nick. It's about acknowledging the cause of them, which is this society. And this society is based on materialism, and materialism is not a source of happiness. It's not a sustainable source of happiness. So quality of life here is actually not good. Even though people have things, they're miserable, even people with more things than others. But let's get into how incompetent the police is with this latest story.
Yeah, this is why any chance I have, I'm gonna try and pull people to my side and to the left. And what have we been saying, Zoe, for a long time? The cops, this is not Rush Hour. This is not Die Hard. This is not insert your favorite fucking cop movie. They're not gonna bust in the door waving the 4-4 and save your life. In fact, there have been many examples of them doing the exact opposite. Do not believe the cops at the beginning of their press release, because they lied at the beginning of the story. And we need independent media to cover this, because it's hard to find this in mainstream media, because mainstream media are beholden to the prison industrial complex. And now, because when I see this story, it really enrages me, right? Because there's still people that are weak on this issue. They still believe that police actually care, and they serve anything else other than serving capitalism and enforcing racial hierarchies. Most police, as I explained, and I have no other better way to say it, so I apologize. Most police are pussy. I'm sorry. They don't want to be soldiers. Why do you think they became cops? They're not trying to go to war. They're not military people. They're not fit to be soldiers. They don't even have the They don't have the skills. They don't have the fortitude. The only thing they do, they play dress up, and they play Call of Duty in real life. They beat, shoot, and kill unarmed people, not gangsters, not terrorists. And when the going gets tough, what do the cops do when the going get tough? When the going get tough, they don't do shit, because their job is to harass poor people. You guys see that video of the cops pushing down that black lady at the protest? They want to go after the older black lady. They want to punch an older white dude and bust his skull, right? They don't want to go to war. They don't want to protect people. The federal courts ruled on the behalf of the police that they have no legal right to protect you. So you can't file a wrongful suit, if a police literally lets you die. Now, let me get into this story, because at first, when this shooting first came out, because of RBN and what we are saying, because cops and the propagandists understand how horrific it looks for them. Because remember, me and Josana, we was live. When this story broke while we were live, my first reaction was just another shooting that they didn't prevent, even though the police budgets continue to go up. So every time there is a massive event like this, the police perform propaganda. Do you guys think they're honest actors? They're here to make their department look good so they can justify their wages. So when this story came out, they didn't want to deal with any questions of people asking, what the hell, what were you guys doing? How did this even happen? Because let me pull the number here. I think I have it here. They have the Uvalde City School District. It has its own police department. It has a police chief, 5 cops, and a security guard. So this happens while you have a police chief, 5 cops, and a security guard just in the school. It's literally a police department. Literally, you got management, and you got 5 employees, and then you got the lower employee, the security guard, right? So then they lied. They're like, "Oh, this dude he was heavily armed. We was pinned down. And then he infiltrated." No. So now let me dig into the receipts, and I'll give you guys thoughts. Oh, jeez. Hold on. This is the lie. And you see how NBC News and all the corporate media repeated this as fact, uncritically, right? The gunman, and this is according to the police, wore body armor during the attack, and initial officers were unable to bring the shooter and had to wait for tactical teams in order to finally stop the gunman. What? You had one 18-year-old, and as this next tweet explains, they lied. The police did when they were trying to say, "Oh, well, it was just this heavily armored guy. We had to go get backup." No, man, they were cowered in fear of real conflict. The police, they are down to bust the heads of homeless people and people protesting Roe v. Wade, right? But then shit went down. They skedaddled. They're like, we got to call the whole force in. We need backup. Why, motherfucker? How many of them? There's one guy. There's a whole unit of y'all. Like, we need the whole force before we can engage. So anyway, let me read the tweet. I'll give you guys thoughts. That said, rather than calling these cops cowards for running from a guy shooting at them. So yeah, that's a good point. I actually didn't pick that up the first time. So the media, instead of saying, why do you guys run in an active shooter situation? When you guys watch Rush Hour or Die Hard, whatever these favorite cop films, I don't watch them anymore. I can't even give you guys good examples. Bad Boys. Whenever the bad guy starts shooting, do the good guy like, "Oh, I gotta run, go get back up and let people die"? No, that don't happen. Why don't they show that in the movie? It almost like it's propaganda, right? Because that's what they did. Now, I have no expectation of these people, but the same people who are pushing gun control, are they pushing gun control for these cowards? Are they limiting the powers of the people who don't do anything to solve these crimes? Now, before I get actually, let me read this last one. I'll give you guys thoughts. This is a good friend of the show, our friend Mo. This is another source, and this came from an article from Houston, local Houston's paper, because I want to show you guys multiple sources here. Before entering the elementary school and opening fire, the gunman got into a gunfight with the cops outside the school. Despite the authorities lying earlier, he was not wearing body armor. The gunman managed to enter the school in complete police presence. Why was he able to do this? Because they ran to call backup while they had an active deranged shooter. How does that make sense? So let me read the article and then we get to you guys. After further inspection of deceased suspect's clothing, it's now appeared the suspect was not wearing body armor as previous information has indicated. Instead, Ramos is said to have been only wearing a plate carrier with no ballistic armor inside when he exchanged gunfire with several officers at the school. What's the number? Several officers. I would love to know. I would love to know that, like, the exact number, because I know they have 5 officers are stabbed, but that doesn't mean all 5 officers was there. But so what you guys call backup? You got active shooter. I don't know. What you guys thoughts? And then I got more to share. But you guys have anything?
I just feel like now your propaganda to serve and protect cannot be used anymore. Because who did they serve when they ran away from the shooter? Who did they protect besides themselves? And I understand the instinct of survival, and we need to go deeper because this school is in a heavily Hispanic area, and we know the lacks of the society because I am Latina, and I know that in my community, things will lack, right? We don't know if these people are prepared, but the propaganda says is a hero, is here to protect and serve, and I don't see that happening. So you cannot wear that sentence anymore. And maybe make sure you say, who are you serving? Because you were serving the oligarchs. Now we all know that too. So let's find another slogan. But sorry.
Yeah. But for now on, if you had an accurate description of cops in Hollywood, they will all be like Paul Blart instead of being what's the name? I'm really bad at Hollywood, guys. I'm bad with celebrity shit. Bruce Willis, right? Isn't he the guy who played the Die Hard guy?
Die Hard, Bruce Willis.
Yeah, and man, give me guys more. Like every time we see one of these goddamn cop movies, it's always this badass police officer who gives a fuck, bro. These people are clowns, bro. This is the average high cholesterol, out of shape people who could not get into the military. And then you got people who retired from the military, so they're not in their prime, right? But anyway, I want to get Carlos because we finally got you in here because I would love your take on what we were talking about. Go ahead.
I assume you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you. Everything sounds good.
Great. Sorry about that. Tech issues. I'm not home right now, so I'm borrowing equipment. I just bought some crappy headphones, I guess, from Target that I thought would work. Before I speak to that point, because I think that's an excellent point. Well, I better just speak to it before I forget about it. I completely agree with you, Jasana, but we've seen this movie before in this country. So the way they're going to respond is by saying that, and there's a clip of Biden saying this in the State of the Union address last year after George Floyd. And I think that, as an atheist, I still think the cosmos works in interesting ways. So on the anniversary of George Floyd's murder, we are talking about this. And so what it calls into question is precisely your point about whether or not the police can still represent themselves, or law enforcement in general can represent themselves as heroic. And I think that narrative is getting difficult to justify, yet nevertheless, Biden goes in front of the entire country to give the report card, the State of the Union. And in it, there's a 2.5, 3 minute clip where he gets a bipartisan standing ovation for politicians on both sides that are applauding his commitment to fund the police even more. And part of the justification behind this, in this country at least, is that we're perpetually retraining police officers to deal with new scenarios, new evolving scenarios. And school shootings are supposed to be one of those scenarios. And I think it's incredible that in the context of the most lethal mass shooting we've had since, I think it's Sandy Hook, essentially, I'm not sure, but especially for a school, that the training is nowhere to be found because this country engages in so much collective denial about what the real job of police officer and law enforcement is. It's not to protect people or serve the community, it's to protect property and protect the oligarchs. And so when that comes into conflict with something like a school shooting and the cowardly reaction that these machista police officers in this country that love to promote themselves as, robo super cops of whatnot, or as Nick appropriately said, they're a new version of the Avengers, and they see themselves as sacrificing themselves every day they go out there to patrol the streets. Well, if you actually live in communities that are heavily patrolled by police, they don't police and patrol with an attitude of saying, hello, how are you doing? How's your family? The traditional representation of the beat cop, which is the one that Biden highlights in his speech. We need those beat cops that know the community. Most police officers, and I don't know if you know this, Josana, most police officers in the U.S. don't live in the cities they police. They don't live in them. They live in suburbs. They get paid enough to be able to live in middle-class communities. They don't police. So they drive into the cities and they hate it. And I've heard some of these people speak at my gym. I hate going into Minneapolis. I don't even go there anymore. We stay away from Minneapolis, me and my family. So we stay in the suburbs, etc. So I don't want to, just because I'm thirsty to say stuff due to my tech issues, I don't want to take up the conversation, but just think those are excellent points. They don't live in the communities they police. Therefore, they walk into those communities already thinking they're under existential threat by everybody they come across. And at the end of the day, that makes them overreact to trivial things. And then when something heavy like a mass shooting happens, and they're accountable for it because they let him through the school, they let him inside. He roamed for an hour, I think, inside of the school without police engaging him. And he ends up massacring all these children. And they cannot hold themselves accountable to the point where now they're questioning whether or not a police officer killed them or whether or not he killed himself. I don't know if you've heard this new narrative emerge in terms of like, oh, we don't know how he died. I'm gonna shut up now.
We'll get you back in here, Carlos. You always have great perspective. So Zoya, do you have anything else you want to add? And then we get Josana, and then I'll move on to the next part.
Yes, something to also keep in mind is because it was a heavily Hispanic school in that community, there was ICE on scene, and undocumented parents were worried about checking in on their children. Because
and then ICE was like, "Oh, we promise we're not gonna deport anyone." Bullshit! Don't trust them for one goddamn second. How dystopian is our society that we had, bro? That's hundreds of miles away from the border. I think it was like 150 something miles when I saw someone. Why do you have? And this was the excuse they used. They said, "Well, we had to get everyone as first responders." ICE, Custom Border Protection. Why the fuck are they first responder for a shooter? Hell nah. Hell nah. But sorry, so I interrupted you. And then I want to get Josana and Carlos in here too.
I just wanted to make that point to make people realize how dehumanizing the society operates. And then another thing, it's such a settler colonial mindset and education in this country. I mean, we're just replicating violence that we cause abroad. It's really an illness in the society in general. And I wanted to read a quote from Malcolm X. This is how they do it. And if you study how they do it here, then you'll know they do it over there. It's the same game going on all the time. And if you and I don't awaken and see what this man is doing to us, then it'll be too late.
Thank you for the $5, Anthony. The super chats are back, fam. Keep on going. They are not legally required to protect you. Where's my receipt? Because that's Josana, you have anything you want to add? Because I actually do got next part of the story I want to get to, but I want to get everyone in before I do my next presentation. Josana, you want to add in?
Yes. Can I?
Because that's what we're gonna cover next. I'm gonna explain to you guys how this is not new.
Can I just get something out of my chest, Nick? Just like
preach your truth, my sister. Preach your truth.
Vai tomar no cu, ICE filho da puta. So now that I said what I always wanted to say to the ICE, I just want to talk a little bit about the Nazi propaganda, right? Nazis, they drank from Nietzsche that wrote The Will of Power and the Superman, and also the US that created the eugenics. And the propaganda that's used to show and to present that model as the best model to be is the hero, the character of the hero, the savior that comes from white Jesus in white Christianity, the savior that dies for all of our sins, right? And that's what that shooter was thinking when he went to kill people. But that's also what the police is sold like. Heroes to protect and serve. I'm here for you. But in the end of the day, we all watched the parents of the victims threatened by those that are painted as heroes. Who are the heroes for? It has to get more clear. It has to get clearer and clearer. Let's interpret that. who are they heroes for? Because they still exist, so they have to be heroes for someone in the white supremacist model. They are heroes for the oligarchs and the dominant classes, not us. Não a gente. We are in the side that will be killed the moment we start asking ourselves questions. But we do have to ask ourselves those questions, because that's the only way for change. Because we are majority. They make us think otherwise every single second, but we are majority. I talk too much. It's the vape pen. Sorry.
Go ahead, Carlos.
I was just going to add that's a very important point. I know we started the discussion before I dropped out regarding mental health. That attracts a lot of people with mental health issues that want to be the hero, but don't understand what that means in terms of accountability and training and everything it takes us to be a frontline, emergency respondent, as you were highlighting, Nick. And ICE are not trained to be first responders. They let people die in the desert all the time because they don't want to go deal with bodies, literally. So in terms of first response, that's not their priority in terms of saving lives. It's to police. They're just another form of police. And I just want to raise the issue of Jared Loughner, who was a paranoid schizophrenic. He's a young man who shot Gabby Giffords, the senator, while she was doing at a supermarket, ended up killing a young girl in the process also. But he was a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic who was able to acquire a gun, get a taxi, and drive to a supermarket to shoot a congresswoman who was having an open hall town event. That speaks to the mental health crisis this entire nation seems to be suffering when it comes to questions of hero worshiping, absurd fantasies that we try to live up to that are promoted by this echo chamber culture industry we exist under. And at the end of the day, what you end up getting is alienated young people going and grabbing guns to express their agency that they feel have been stifled for most of their lives. And what you end up having are these anti-fantasies, these nightmares, if you will, that are produced by our society. And again, they're not going to be addressed with any kind of a responsibility. All they're going to do is throw more money at it, because that's what this country does best. They throw money at systemic problems. They don't address the underlying causes.
They already hear people saying we need to have more police in schools. Already seen it. I've seen more from Republicans, to be clear, but I have seen the messaging come out.
I've seen parents, Nick. Parents that are parents to some of the kids that were at the school shooting. I read a tweet today. My daughter's not speaking. She was at the school shooting. She won't speak at all. We hope that she starts to talk, but this is why teachers need to be armed.
What?
I'm a teacher, and no.
I'm a teacher,
Zoya,
and no.
Hope you guys are teachers. So, Zoya, you want to chime in?
I mean, most propaganda is society, and propaganda works. They constantly get people in this country to ask for things that they don't want, because they're taught that these things are solutions, and what meanwhile, welfare, which is a good positive word, is vilified. People literally have a negative response to the word welfare in this country, when being a welfare state is actually what a good country does: provide well-being for its citizens. We're supposed to be providing community resources, healthcare, education. All of these things would prevent shootings. And another thing I always like to highlight, and I can drop a link for it later, that mass shootings are extremely common. They happen practically every single day of the year in this country. But the reason that the media is focusing attention on it right now, so this is commonplace, but we're not talking about this every day. Our attention is being controlled by the media, and it's going here right now because the midterms are coming up, and they love gun control as a fundraising and wedge issue. So this is ignored on a daily basis. Kids, the adults, they get murdered all the time. I'm telling you guys, I was looking for the statistics for May, for April. It's every single day. I think there was 2 days where there weren't mass shootings in April. But we don't talk about it. That's
now midterms is coming up, so now we gotta hear more about it.
Are we gonna talk about that? Sorry. Beto making himself the hero.
Yeah.
In
the photo op on top of a photo op, you mean, Josana?
Since you brought it up,
I was like, damn.
we can watch it. I saw like a clip of it, but I didn't actually like dive into it.
Greg
but
Abbott
this
was
is
speaking to it, and Beto decided to do a photo op because he's going to run against them. So he interrupted the press conference.
Oh, here's the video.
So
like it was literally all over Twitter. So I just saw the headline. Oh shit! Let's actually watch the video. Let's watch the video.
I have the video.
You're gonna love this, Nick.
I have it. I have it too. I'm really good at this now.
Excuse me. Sit down. You're out of line and an embarrassment. Sit down and don't play this.
Next shooting is right now, and you're doing nothing.
No, he should get his ass out. You just give him the place to talk this over.
This is totally predictable. When you,
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you're out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
I love how tough he was at the beginning and then walked away so meekly. Like if he really meant what he was saying, he would have been willing to get arrested in that moment.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna have more energy than that. Like he was very calm and then like what Beto is doing is extremely cringe because we all know this is a political stunt. But honestly, my first reaction to seeing that is I think a lot of those Republicans are just as cringe as Beto. They're like, "Come on, man, stop, bro. This is the civility politics that we're talking about. Come on, man. Come on, what are you doing? No, shut the fuck up, man. You're in power. What are you complaining about? This should be happening more often. You should have people doing that all the time. So I look at it both ways. Like, you guys, calm down with that weak ass civility politics. Oh my god, he's interrupted the press conference. Damn, what y'all? Someone did a drive by?
That's a Brazil motorcycle.
So I'm gonna take it both ways. So Beto is obviously cringe, and he's obviously an opportunist for doing this. But the Republicans and the people who are like, "Oh my God, civility politics! You're interrupting our sanctionist event." Both of them make me cringe. So,
but the problem is like they're not like when they're cringing. If they were saying the truth, we would understand why they are cringing too. Like they know Beto is making a scene, but they also don't want to call a dog because they also do those scenes. So it becomes like this big drama, right? Where they like, "Oh, why are you doing this, man?" And Beto's like, "I am Che Guevara." It's like, dude, people died. 15 of them were children. Like, sorry, 13, 14 of them were children. Like, don't,
dude,
you just don't do that.
We just roasted David. I'll pass it right to you, Carla. But we just roasted David Schroeder yesterday. But if David Schroeder is saying this, like if he is saying this, imagine actually saying like, or even implying that voting is the option here. Like here's David Schroeder. We just roasted him yesterday. He said, "Vote harder is the most insulting fucking message right now. Go fuck yourself forever." And I agree, Mr. Schroeder. So that's what Beto is doing. He's doing. Yeah, if you just elect me, I will fix the problem. Shut up, you egomaniac. You're not gonna do shit. Democrats already have power. You're not doing nothing. What are you talking about?
Nick, do you know why he's saying that? Howard Dean was on MSNBC saying that.
Yes, I didn't know I didn't see the Howard Dean clip. But anyone who's saying vote, go fuck yourself for real. Like I told you, I think I'm fair. We just roasted the shit out of David Schroeder yesterday because you guys see how he's a hypocrite. Because he was like, "All you guys saying that you should leave the Democratic Party, you're nihilist." But how you gonna say that one day and then you just saying fuck you to people who's saying voting the next day? You guys see how these people are like they flip flop based on the now. They're not real. Like I do want to preface it with that. Like this dude is like. He is so fucking fake because we do. But anyway, Carlos, I do want to get you in here. I'm
just saying. Beto also wants to remind us that he's a guy that undermined his own campaign a few years ago by saying we're coming to get your AR-15s to Texas in Texas, and it's like, oh, dude, you don't say that while you're running. You say that you do it once you're actually in office. But the worst thing about that town hall / press, it was a press conference, honestly. And you can see the amount of people that Abbott had with him. I mean, he's not capable of handling this by himself. So there was a lot of like what you would call what is it? Damage control going on at that press conference. But we never saw, Nick, because of fucking Beto and his bullshit, are the parents that were actually in the same room at the end of the meeting yelling at Abbott, the blood is on you. This is on you. And we don't get to see those real people reacting with real pain to a politician that's sitting in power, because another wannabe politician interrupts the press conference to make sure all the cameras are on him, and he gets seen escorted out of the room. And it's all performative bullshit.
Free campaign, free campaign, free campaign.
This fucking sucks, man. I hate our politics, guys.
Sorry, Carlos. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to scream that. Keep going, please.
I hate our politics so much.
That's just sad because they took the voice away from the people.
And
they got the megaphone. This is the one moment where you want to give it, like after the Santa Barbara shooting and Elliot Rodgers, one of the people said, like, I don't want to hear from fucking Obama. I don't want to hear from these fake ass politicians. Don't call me on the phone to tell me how fucking sorry you are that my son is dead. I want you to do something about it and shut the fuck up and get to work. And then at the end of the day, they don't. And no one ever called that dad because they knew how he felt, and then he wasn't going to take the call anyway. They took the voice away from the people that experienced this on the ground in order to get the megaphone again, in order to, as Josanna was said, to campaign.
You know, I've seen so many parents, like especially after the Sandy Hook, Parkland shooting, and all this stuff, they engage with politicians, and then the politicians' response is always the same. Yeah, I feel for you. I'm saddened for your loss. But we got opportunity. We got election coming up. We just need you to go out there and vote. I see it all the time. And now, Zoya, I'm going to show you this clip. Let's get this clip. And then...
No response. I think that's absolutely right. I think the Democrats particularly, have got to stop the hand-wringing and demand accountability from the voters. No response. I think that's absolutely right. I think the Democrats particularly, have got to stop the hand-wringing and demand accountability from the voters.
You hear that? It's your fault. Nick, unmute.
What? What? It's your fault. You didn't vote hard enough.
We don't demand enough of our politicians with our votes.
Holy.
Who on the Sphinx is that man? Like, he looks like he's like 1,500 years old.
He wanted to be president.
Is that Howard Dean?
Yes.
He wanted to be president.
That's Howard Dean?
Yes, I not realize that.
The stress got to that dude.
Oh my God.
This country's killing all of us.
Zoya, tell me how, Zoya, how can one live here without their heads exploding? Because like, I like to have these conversations with Nick because like he's laughing like I am, because I'm like, yo, it's on the face.
I'm a foreigner. I take no responsibility for America.
I consider myself an outsider too. I'm an outsider as far as I'm concerned. I don't fit in.
I wasn't even born in this country, so I don't take responsibility.
Yeah, we don't claim this shit. I love how all four panelists, we don't claim this shit.
Yeah. And you know, just to speak to the point that was brought up earlier, Nick, that you brought up in terms of the GOP talking point of like, you know, hearts and whatever the hell they say, where's what did you say? You said it perfectly. It's almost the exact quote that they come out with, all politicians. It's like our hearts go out to the families, you know, thoughts and prayers. Thank you. That's right. Thoughts and prayers. The Onion, did you talk about this yet?
No.
Oh yeah.
The Onion, if you go for it, Nick, if you want to introduce, because that was brilliant. It was just brilliant, because what they didn't do is they were relentless in terms of trolling the hearts. What is it again?
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. They parodied the thoughts and prayers talking point, where every article that day in the Onion just started with like, "There's nothing we can do about this. There's nothing we can do about this." So they had like pretend articles, and everyone, the headline was, "There's nothing we can do about this."
Yeah, they've been posting this every single time that there was a mass shooter. Like there was 21. Like they posted this so many times. No way to prevent this. Says the only nation where this regularly happens. That's their famous response to these mass shooters. And the Onion's still been on fire despite like how do you parody like they actually better now, because it's hard to parody Trump, right? But it's much easier to call out this establishment that we have now. I don't know. They've been on fire. But anyway, go ahead, Carlos. I'll pass it back to you.
No, that was just my point. I just wanted to let you know that I think the Onion did exactly what you're talking about in terms of like, we're tired of hearing the same talking point. So in this issue, every little pretend article that's fake and comedic is going to repeat their talking points to show the readers that are looking at this how ridiculous this begins to sound after a while, how offensive it is in terms of the repetition compulsion, as they call it in psychology.
Nick, if you can share the link that I dropped in your DMs, I just think that this is the only network that will show this and that most people are unaware of this. The mass shootings data.
Let's see. Hopefully this is the right one.
And I did want to say something to that, Zoya,
Yeah,
when you brought it up. Mexico is ranked second after the U.S. in terms of mass shooting. I think average mass shootings in the U.S. are like over 200 plus a year. And Mexico's in second place with 8.
But 8. Look at by the day. Look at by the day. May 10th.
Every day.
Yeah, so if you add those up, it averages to close to over 200 a year. And the next closest
is Kansas. I was like, what Kansas at, man? We slipping.
Nick, can you send me this? Because I want to read it properly. I can't.
Yeah, just put in the private chat. I'll pull it up. Put in the private chat. So yeah, whenever they need an election coming up, that's when they just start reporting it, right? This was a particularly brutal shooting that happened, but they've been reporting on a lot of the mass shootings even before this one. And they do it every few years. That's a good point. 30 schools so far this year. Let me pull this up.
No, I'm like, the reason why laughing is so important is because like you laugh in face of the absurd, right? And to be quite honest, that's how I laughed when I hope laughed is the best sentence for that. But that's how I laughed when I got here and I went to a bar and we ordered a pitcher of something. This is a very simple example. And the bar was closed and I was like, okay, so put for us in the plastic cups. And they were like, no. I was like, but we paid for the thing. They were like, yeah, no. You cannot walk around in the USA with drinks in your hands. And I was like, what?
Yeah. So
he was like, no, the cops are going to come and they're going to arrest you. And I was like, what? And I cracked out laughing very loud because to me it's so absurd because the propaganda is like the land of the free. And then there's the eagle and like it's flying like everybody's super free and they do stuff and they're very free. That's how the propaganda works. For the mask, America thrives in hypocrisy. Sorry,
we are the master of projection. I'm gonna share this and I'll pass it back to the panel because I'm gonna get back to our police bashing. I see the chat. There are a lot of great chats. Please leave a like as well. Help us in the algorithm if you're enjoying the stream. Also, we had a link to the Patreon in the description. Please subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Help us continue to grow and provide more content like this. But anyway, let's go to this one because this is what we mentioned earlier. It's very similar, right? The police have no duty to protect the public. And there have been multiple precedents that has been set, as said here. Numerous court precedents have established that cops aren't obligated to act in the interest of citizens. They openly say this kind of stuff. Let me see if I can find because there was another lawsuit. Don't have to protect you. There's another one because there's a lawsuit that went all the way to federal court, and this precedent was set because of a school shooting. That's the funny part. Here's the one I want to show you guys. Here, check this out. Because look how similar this is. Police have no duty to protect you. Federal court affirms yet again. Following last February's shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Another school. Some students claim local government officials was at fault for failing to provide protection for students. They sued the Broward Sheriff's Office, as well as the school deputy, Scott Pearson. So I thought you guys were protected. They sued them. And because there's no checks and balances in this country, right? So the people who investigate the cops are their friends in the courts, the judges. They always have each other back. You gotta do something extremely fucked up. Like, or you gotta, like, Derek Chauvin hurt the image of policing so bad. They're like, we gotta make an example of you. But as long as you don't fuck up that bad, they got you, bro. They got you for the most part, right? And they had the back of the police officers who allowed these kids to get shot. I don't remember the exact detail. I don't remember people died on this one. Just to be honest, I don't remember the exact details. But the point is, do you guys see the same? You guys see the how these stories connect? The same thing just happened here. Are they? I wonder. I doubt they're gonna get sued because this is federal, right? So even though this happened in Florida, there's precedent for everyone. I think that's how it works. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's how it works. But you guys see how this is? And then they were like, oh my God, the police need to get paid way more, 3 times more than the average than like the average teacher, for example. Do you guys know how much the NYPD get paid? Like, they make 6 figures. Like, these people, like these police officers, and this is why they're not members of the proletariat, at least in this country, not at all. They get insane amount of benefits. They all make 6 figures. They all live in upper bourgeoisie class because, oh my God, our job is so dangerous. Is it really? Is it really though?
For us, it's very dangerous for us, their job.
Yeah, and I will pass it to you, and then we get to Carlos. But you guys see, being a police officer is not even in the top 10 most dangerous jobs. But this is what people think it is.
Pizza man is a more dangerous job than a police officer.
So I'm gonna scroll down to the list, right? Because this is a long article. I'll tell you guys. I recommend you guys to look into the details of this. But here, I'm gonna just read this part, and I think you guys will get it. Do you guys remember the story I just reported on? I think it was Nick. Was on Monday. And when Amy Klobuchar gave this tweet where she was like, 550 officers died in line of duty. This is why they need more protection. And then like 400 of those deaths were COVID. And then like 100, and then another percent of those were suicides. And then another one of those was like other illness. Like none of these police deaths that you be seeing these statistics are them like getting into gunfights with gang members like you see in the movies. People need to get serious. The way people think cops actually operate in this country is clown shit. I'm sorry. But now I'm gonna read this passage. I'm gonna give you guys thoughts. I'll start with Zoe after this. But now let's look at the top 10 most dangerous jobs in America. Loggers, fishermen, pilots. I like this one right here. It says it's about 300% more dangerous to be a pilot than a cop. It's 870% more dangerous to be a logger than a cop. 514% more dangerous to be a fisherman than a cop. Why don't you say, oh my God, the fishermen are protecting and serving our society by providing us food? Roofers. I have a friend who was a roofer a long time. He said, fuck this shit. It's about 250% more dangerous to be a roofer. Who audio is that? Y'all killing me. Truck drivers. It's about 76% more dangerous to be a truck driver than a cop. Oh, sorry, I skipped this one. Structural, iron, and steel workers. It's about 80% more dangerous to be an iron worker than a cop. Refuse and recycle material collectors. It's about 114% more dangerous. Agricultural workers, construction workers, maintenance ground workers. And honestly, this is tragic. I'm not happy when I hear this because when you do see the cops like killed on duty, like 90% of the time it's because they had a traffic stop and some asshole hits them in the car. Once again, it's not because they're fighting crime. But go ahead, Josana. Go.
No, remember the last round table that Afeni was in with us, and the story we were bringing is the cop shooting a person in a wheelchair 4 times in the back. It's a person in a wheelchair 4 times in the back, like they running like. How can you be pro-cop?
Sorry, Josiah.
That's an
Go ahead,
excellent
Carlos.
point. Because I think you're right, Nick. I think that people need to know that police are not actually required to protect us. That's something that politicians are never going to advertise when they're asking for more funding for the police and say, like, oh, by the way, you know, they're not legally obligated to protect you specifically. But Chauvin broke that myth because what that murder showed is that the police are not obligated or legally bound to protect you, but the burden of proof if they murder you is on you nevertheless. The police don't investigate the police when it comes to it. And it'll be interesting to see what the internal investigation will be in terms of the police reaction to this shooting, because I bet you the report is going to be extremely generous to the law enforcement that was there at the moment, just like the original report after Floyd's murder was that he just passed away.
Well said. Now, and one, I want to make this other connection too, because we love going after Eric Adams and these giant police state bootlickers, people like Amy Klobuchar, who on the week that George Floyd died, his anniversary, they made National Cop Week. And I'll explain. You guys know why they did that? History is written by the victors. So right now, George Floyd is fresh in our mind, but in 20 years, people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's National Police Week," instead of saying it's George Floyd's week. Now, I don't know how long that's gonna take, but that's why they do it. They're gonna slowly shift people focus that week from George Floyd and what happened to National Police Week. So there's some people that say, "Oh my God, what a coincidence that Amy Klobuchar would do." No, I'm not buying it. That's a calculated gangster move. Because once again, victories. If we don't overturn neoliberalism, if they continue to write our education system, which I think is a strong possibility, 25 years, they're going to National Police Week. And then in the same way that Gen Z don't know that much about Rodney King, right? I'm afraid that's going to happen. But anyway, I'm kind of sidetracking.
Nick, you're not wrong at all, because like I started like this writing that I'm doing where I compare the military government from the 70s in Brazil to the actual government in the USA, because I don't have the experience of the military, but we study heavy in history there. So I'm comparing, and the fact that they change the dates for, like, they make holidays out of dates where tragedies happened is an actual propaganda action of like a police state, because you need to be it's like moral and civil, and all the holidays are military holidays. So you're not wrong, you are not wrong. And it starts by repeating and training the mind. That's how they wash it. Like, they invaded, the military took over, did the coup d'etat in April Fools 1964, but they say and they repeat, and the holiday is on March 31st. So it's the same, because the model of the military government was brought by the USA to us. Sorry.
No, you're on fire. This is fun. This is a fun panel. I'm trying to figure out how I'm presenting this next story because it's still on topic. I'll read this comment. I guess maybe we should do comment check. Oh, this is a friend of the show, my friend Nolly. Nick, show what they did to Charlie Tilson. They watched while he begged for his life, died in a cell, no food or water for 9 days after being beaten and arrested for calling the cops because he needed help. Yeah, this is why I am as radical as I am. And that's like, even just reading that is trauma, right? That's why when you guys see us on Roundtable, we try to laugh and joke as much as we can because we talk about a lot of depressing shit on this show.
I think that's sorry, Nick. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Just on this point, right? Like when you're living in the middle of the absurd, you can either just fall apart, cry, or laugh at it as a way of trying to keep going. It's like that MASH syndrome. It's like there's not much we can do. But let's not forget that this goes back centuries, right? Like the Haymarket shooting in Chicago was the police being hired by the bosses that ran the businesses at that time in order to bring the police to break up striking workers, literally. And they were massacred. I mean, and they built nice statues to commemorate them. But no one. You ask people now, it's like, well, do you know anything about the Haymarket massacre that happened in Chicago? And people don't know because we don't teach that history. That's too much. That's too proletariat and too anti-cop.
And that's all we do. I don't know anyone who tackled this issue because this is the biggest blind spot of neoliberal. This is the biggest hypocrisy that neoliberalism and conservatives have. The people who say, don't tread on me. Meanwhile, you guys support a nanny police state that regulates plants that people can digest, right? In New York, they literally have stop and frisk, and people are like, don't tread on me. They're like, oh, we believe in free speech. Meanwhile, they're banning protesting. This exposes both neoliberalism, and I actually call both of them liberals, but I'm not going to get too in the weeds here. But this exposes both the right wing and the left wing in this country, meaning the Democrats and Republicans. I'm trying to keep it simple, so I don't go on no rant. But like you have the liberals who believe in freedom. They say they believe in this democracy, but their police state contradicts that. When conservatives say they believe in fiscal conservatism, but our police spends more than other countries' military, despite quote unquote, as they claim, crime going up, you are not justifying why you're spending money on this program. Now, when you spend money on healthcare, you actually boost the economy. When you have single payer, boost the economy, you boost the quality of life for everyday families. So this is spending by the proletariat that justifies itself. The spending by the police do not justify itself because it don't even produce gains for the community. But capitalism don't even care about that. Feel free to chime in anytime you guys want. I'm talkative as hell today.
Well, Nick, answer the question. What did the newspapers print in terms of like the motivations that led this young person to go and engage in this shooting? What did he suffer? Mental health issues and bullying in school. Sorry, Zoya?
America. He suffered America.
He suffered America. In many ways, you can, concise way of breaking it down. But if you're, to speak to your point, Nick, had we had a workers-oriented kind of funding, it would go towards those kind of programs that catch people like that early on and offer them the help so that this shit doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to literally blow up.
If we had resources going towards community, then this person wouldn't even need help. And to the comment that CJ's making, Nick, I just dropped you another thing in your DMs. This is
always with the receipts, my friend. Go ahead.
This is when the Rodney King beating happened. And for those of you too young to know about this story,
let's go.
Yeah, it was when Rodney King was a black man being brutally on video. And this is back in the day when not everybody had like cell phones to capture it. So it was a big thing that it was caught on camera. And the cops were let off scot-free, and all of Los Angeles rioted. But this was Joe Biden's response to the cops beating this unarmed man.
You can expect police officers without clear guidance to do anything other than try to protect us by whatever means are necessary. I mean, I wonder what my friend from California would say if this beating case we saw out in Los Angeles, if in the process of that beating, that person confessed to having murdered somebody. Should it be admissible? If in the process of that beating, I asked that question to my friend. What was the fellow's name? Rodney King. If when Rodney King was being beaten, the guy we saw on television, in the process of that beating, Rodney King confessed to a murder that he did commit, should Rodney King be convicted under our laws? That's my question.
I don't know under those circumstances. I really don't.
See, that's the problem.
The fact of the matter is, the answer is probably no.
Probably no.
Right.
Yeah. I think
I don't know how the courts would construe that, but probably no.
Well, usually the courts construe beatings, eliciting confessions, as not a good thing. And the reason they do that is we have a proposition about self-incrimination in our country. As a matter of fact, not only usually, always do they construe it that way. But my point is, there would be, assuming somebody had committed a murder, confession out of it, and he did commit the murder. He did commit the murder. And that's what convicted him. Now, I wouldn't want that guy going free. I wouldn't want that person going free. They did commit a murder. But the only way we're able to convict him is the police beat him up with a hose. Should that person be denied their constitutional rights? Well, My gut tells me no. Yes, they should be. Hang them. They did it. But why is it that we don't allow those kinds of things to be admissible?
Nick, you're killing me. You're killing me with that clip. I'm here moving my chair. I'm here want to go through the screen.
Right.
You are.
That is the greatest evil. Go ahead, Josan. I just want to add that.
No, not, and it's the president.
That's the greatest evil. Like, you guys understand what he's advocating for is torture, right? That's the ideology that created Guantanamo Bay. Dude, they have people
where he sent all the Haitian people that he whipped before in the border. Now they're in Guantanamo Bay getting a little bit of his policy.
And they did some practice in Abu Ghraib with the same mindset. It doesn't matter to them. And this is the guy that, legislated 3 strikes and you're out, right? What you hear in that clip is pure dripping white privilege. This is someone who has never felt threatened by a cop. This is someone who doesn't understand that cops can engage in violence. It's unjustifiable. And you tell me, what's the difference between torturing someone on the street versus torturing them in an interrogation room?
Yes, that's exactly why I brought Guantanamo, because that ideology, the reason why that's a human rights violation against the Geneva Conventions, being confessions out of people. Because as Joe Biden said, even if that person committed the crime, how many people did you forcibly confess to commit a crime they didn't commit because they were being tortured? That's what they did in Guantanamo. They will waterboard people. They will have innocent villagers who they got because of corrupt warlords that they made deals with in Afghanistan. And then they will literally waterboard the people like, tell you're a terrorist, right? Confess. And then eventually they will confess just because they didn't want to end the torture. That's why it's ineffective. And you're for a police officer, you beating the shit out of someone, eventually you're gonna all right, I did it. Right? But anyway, go ahead, Carlos. That's insane.
So Biden's okay with torturing U.S. citizens, but he's not okay with U.S. soldiers getting tortured in a war situation. That's the irony here, right? We can torture our own people that vote for us and help us get into office. But when we're talking about like something like John McCain getting tortured, then suddenly it becomes unethical. And I would just ask, what's the difference in terms of treating human beings? Why is it okay to treat your own in a torturous manner and not allow other people to torture soldiers when you're sending them to fight overseas? Why is it okay or not?
Carlos, because the U.S. applies its foreign policy in its own citizens in order to keep things in order. This is a dictatorship. This is a dictatorial government. And Joe Biden is just the same he was in that video. But they do what they tell other governments to do to their own citizens, or what they do when they invade. They do to us. And the only reason that they value their arms, their soldiers, is because the soldiers are allowing them to apply what they apply for the citizens here outside of here. So they are valuable pieces because they are also a gun.
And our police forces go to places like Israel to get trained by that police force.
Yeah, I feel you, CJ. He said, I don't know how anyone can watch this old footage of Joe Biden and not clearly hear that this fucking bastard is a racist. Like, guys, if you had, I wish someone needed to put an edit together 90s highlight reel of Joe Biden so you can see how much of an absolute psychopath this man is. And I tweeted these videos so much. I'm sure I can find a few via Twitter search pretty easily for you guys. I remember there was one Senate floor speech I shared where he was praising civil asset forfeiture. There was another one where he was praising the 3 strike laws. And then he was like, I think we should give people a felony even if they're fucking jaywalking. Like, he was obviously joking, but that joke implies that he wants felonies to be something that's easily attained, right? I don't think he's obviously mean jaywalking, but that's a joke, meaning that he want more felonies on the book for lighter crime, right? I may see if I can do some up, but I can't promise anything because there's so many. Like, that's just one. There's so many unhinged 90s Joe Biden speeches. That's the greatest evil. You hear that speech, and you're surprised that that guy's funding multiple genocides. You hear that speech, and you're surprised that the worst president in modern American history. You hear that speech, and you're surprised that he's funding ICE more. People hear that speech, they hear all his 1964 speech, and they still voted for him. Ugh, that's gross. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Zoya. Anyone want to chime in?
Meanwhile, his own son is suffering for decades with drug addiction and has never suffered any consequences under the system that allows people with money and power to get away. And Biden pushed mandatory minimums, Patriot Act, pretty much all of the worst policy that we have in America right now, he was pushing for. And protected his own family from those consequences. He's such a hypocrite. He's such a racist. And the cruelty in that clip alone exposes everything about him. But Americans have such amnesia. We're inundated with so much information that people forget. That's why Americans don't know that mass shootings happen every single day. And at the same time, completely forgot that Biden was out there saying these kind of unhinged things for decades. And they still voted for him because he's not Trump. Trump never said these things.
And just to speak to your point, Zoya, let's not forget that this is also not only a racist, Jim Crow, police-loving president, as Nick calls him, Jim Crow Joe, but this is also a warmongering president, because as a Democratic senator, he's the one that justified weapons of mass destruction in Iraq to the point of embarrassing anyone that was questioning whether or not Iraq actually had the weapons of mass destruction that we were using to go justify that war. Biden's on record, and you can look those YouTube videos up, where he's making fun during the cross-examination of people calling into question whether or not Hussein had weapons of mass destruction at that time.
Do you guys want to know why I call him Jim Crow Joe? You go ahead, Zoya.
I just wanted to add another thing, because ultimately this comes back to me to abolishing the police, as always. And the reason for this in this incident is 40% of the city where this happened budget was allotted to police officers. 40%. And in most cities, it eats up half of the city's budget. Not transportation, not education, not healthcare, not housing. And then you wonder why people commit crimes. You wonder why people are depressed and are fighting with struggling with mental health issues. It's because our society is not being funded. But the cops are being funded, and they never help, because as we've already highlighted here, they were on scene. They did not prevent one death, and we will never get the truth on this. But those bullets they were firing, they probably caused some injuries or death. But we're never going to hear about that.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. And I found a video. Go ahead, Josana.
No, I just say like it's a system made to make us depressed. It's made because it's working the way they need us to, right? We go to work, we're strengthless, we don't even want to live anymore. So it's okay. We're not brave enough. We're not going to jump out of the window, but we will go to work. That's the place where we have to get out from. Because even though it's hurting and I'm tired and it's a pain in the ass to hear about these things, I have to find strength in my guts. I have to turn on the survival mode and find a way out of this thing. And it's only together, and it's only demanding the change. Because if they really didn't need us, the system that is in place, the powers there be, we wouldn't be here. They have enough whatever to kill us. They launching pandemics. I mean, we have an importance. So we are majority. And that's the concept that I think it's lacking in the USA. People need to understand that they are majority, a needed one. And we need to demand.
Have any of y'all been at a protest where the crowd is so angry and there's so many of them that the cops are on defensive? Like when I was in Minneapolis and they were burning down the 3rd precinct, I was near the 1st precinct, and they were just surrounding their building and just holding the line. Like they were on the complete
defensive. That's how it was at the KC protest too. And this
there you go. So you see those moments, right?
Yeah. And this is why I told you guys they were counter protesting. They were rioting. When you saw them attacking protesters that were protesting Roe v. Wade, that was the most recent example. That's why I use that. But it happens all the time where they like on the offensive. That's them. That's the establishment counter protesting. Now, before we get veer too much off, I'll show you guys. I think I found a decent highlight clip. Right. I haven't watched this video, but I know his speeches has been so bad that this is going to be educational. And you guys want to see why I call him Jim Crow Joe? I think this video is going to do a good job illustrating why we call him Jim Crow Joe on RBN. And that blew Destiny's audience's mind. Let's watch this video.
You're going to break Josana's spirit.
Is you must take back the streets. And you take back the streets by more cops, more prisons, more physical protection for the people. I hope this crime bill, when it passes, the Biden-Hatch crime bill, as it becomes law, God willing, I hope that we will have ended once and for all this notion that is a hangover from the 60s, that somehow Democrats are weak on crime and Democratic presidents are weak on crime and Republicans are tough on crime. The truth is, every major crime bill since 1976 that's come out of this Congress, every minor crime bill has had the name of the Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden, on that bill. We must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. And that is, unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple, pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets. You're looking at the fellow who was one of the primary architects of the Sentencing Commission. You know what the basic premise of the Sentencing Commission is? I know the presiding officer knows. It was the first time in 80 years we rejected the notion that the condition of sentencing must be related to how long it would take to rehabilitate. I'm the guy that said rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. I remember when it was going on, when I was making these arguments in the late 70s, they used to call it Biden's same time for the same crime provision.
Let me ask you guys something, and I'll hear from you. Do you guys hear a stutter? Was there a stutter? No, you see how sharp he was?
When there was a moment, Nick.
Go ahead, John.
No, he just said my system. Oops, Freudian slip. The Fed system. Sorry, I don't know if I interrupted somebody, but I just want
to say that's evil.
No, we watched this filho da puta estuprador like taking over the whole thing, and I don't know if y'all saw. He was like, "Madam President." He's talking to a woman, and he's like, "I'm giving myself 3 more minutes." He's telling you that he owns the whole thing. We would say in Portuguese, ele é o dono da porra toda. He owns the whole fucking thing.
And what's interesting is that it's obvious he's talking about.
Did you see his swag? His like, he was. I was waiting for the moment that he was gonna say the N word.
So Jim Crow Joe is funny, right? But isn't an exaggeration after hearing that?
No,
it's kind.
This is a slave owner. Slave owner.
No, and even then, just he would say that even if you're 2 generations separated from slavery, that doesn't give you an excuse to jaywalk.
Yeah, guys, I told you, I found that video with a quick search because I knew it would be bad in my mind. But I heard a lot worse too. Like I heard one where he defends civil asset forfeiture. That was a quick 3-minute video. There are clips of him defending starving Iraqi kids too. Like he's like, bro, like there's a lot worse than that. But I think that is a good summary because anyone was like, oh, Joe Biden always suffered from a stutter. He always been soft spoken. But no, that's a psychopath. That's a psychopath of the highest order. Like that's why I didn't differentiate. There was no difference between him and Trump. Like put a Trump, like put his cadence, the way he speak, his accent on all those quotes, and people will freak out. People will say this was the most racist shit ever. I don't got a good Trump impression, but you guys know how he talks, right? Just imagine what he just said with Trump. People will be like, "That's the most racist shit ever." That came from Jim Crow Joe, and progressives voted for him.
You need to dominate the streets. Isn't that what Trump said? Dominate the streets. You just got to go out there and like, can't you shoot them with real bullets? It's like they sound, words matter, right? There wasn't a lot of difference in the rhetoric between Trump when he said that shit and what I just heard Biden say.
They just have this little like, if I was standing up, it's like I'm holding on like this, like my pants like this little like, yeah, we own this all here. They had this, like they like this farmer man, like we own this shit. We did it like, and they are not ashamed of the way that they behave and the way they move. This man is old now. He's senile. He's suffering from dementia, and he's still the owner. He's the owner of the USA. And he was elected as a hero. Black Lives Matter movement died out as soon as this psychopath was elected into office. Sorry, I got a little bit too much out there, but like, I'm losing it because like, how?
That's the guy that Black Lives Matter voted for. That's the guy they released a mission statement. I know I read this a lot. But I gotta read it again. It's a classic. Black Lives Matter Biden victory. This is a classic. I read this on our show maybe like 2 or 3 times. Let me now that you oh wait, what the fuck did they? Oh, let me. They pulled a statement. That's hilarious. I got a statement. I tweeted it. So y'all just because y'all took it down on me, I ain't forgot. I'm find my tweet.
While you're looking for it, I just to Jasana's point, as far as the only way we're going to take down the system is by getting in the streets. The amount of cops in this country is 800,000. The population in this country is 330 million. The only reason that they can control us at all is because we believe that they have power. What are 800,000 people going to do against 330 million? That is less than 0.0024% of the entire population. That's nothing. If we just realize how much power we have in numbers, put a few wedge issues aside, and for our collective good, got into the streets, we could own them. Whose streets?
We are propagandized into believing our streets. We are propagandized to believe that they are bigger than us. Hollywood does that every day. Corporate media does that every day, right? Like we've been learning in school everywhere that they are bigger and more powerful, and we have to be civil. That's why I'm always saying disobedience is revolutionary.
Do y'all see? Do
Don't
y'all see
obey the system.
Speaking of Joe Biden, vice president, because we know the Democrat Party is the party of the police state. We had George Floyd's family was at the White House, and now you guys see this bizarre tweet by Barack Obama. He's getting racial to oblivion because now Democrats, despite being the party of the police state, they are somehow using George Floyd's name for political clout. Like, how do they do that? Black Lives Matter started under your presidency, sir. By the way, under yours. So this is his tweet. As we grieve the children of, how you pronounce that, Uvalde today, we should take time to recognize that 2 years has passed since the murder of George Floyd under the knee of a police officer. His killing stayed with us all of this today, especially those who love him. Bro, Democrat, and I like what Rob tweeted out. The Democrats literally just made it National Police Week. So my reaction now, to be fair, this ratio, he getting ratio bad. A lot of these are a lot of dumb right-wing attacks I don't agree with. But my criticism of this is put his name out of your goddamn mouth when you guys are funding the police and you guys literally create the system that murdered that man as the guy you just heard. You heard him on the Senate floor speech. Barack Obama picked him as vice president because he wanted to appeal to white America. That was his sign to them. He was like, I got your back, bro. All that shit I was just talking shit, man. He said, I got Biden. I got your back. So that's the lefty. There are a lot of bullshit that I see from right wingers in here, but I like the lefty criticisms. So let's focus on that because I did see a lot of dumb right wing takes. I was like, bro, fuck. You guys can attack Obama on anything, and right wingers do the dumbest shit. But anyway, it said if Obama apologized for one civilian drone strike every day, it would take him 3 years. Let me read that again for all the people who say Putin is a unique war criminal. If he apologized every day for one civilian drone strike victim, it would take him 3 years. So people always gotta remind him where he stands. So anyway, I thought that was funny. Also, anyway, what's your guys' thoughts? We're like 90 minutes in. I'm just having fun. Anything you guys want to add?
I shared that on Twitter and I said, "Shut the fuck up, Queen."
I love this is why they took dislikes off of YouTube. This is why they have bots that prop up their account because without those bots, they'll get ratioed all the time because the public do not like them. Even the people I disagree with, I'm like, get that motherfucker though. Because like the left don't like them, the right don't like them for stupid reasons. There's like this small segment. These are like 1 out of 5 Americans, right? That's still like hardcore voting for Democrats, right? I don't think there's a lot of
centrists on both sides, right, Nick? I mean, these are your moderates. These are people that still want to believe in the potential for the political parties to rescue us when at the end of the day, as you're rightfully pointing out, they're just versions of each other at this point. So to be a moderate centrist and have hope that this system that's not working, this is why I think a lot of people are pissed off and disenchanted right now with both parties on both sides for different reasons. And just to speak to the point that was brought up earlier by Zoya and Josina, I think that it's, let's be a little more humble with the numbers. Say 100 million citizens versus 800,000 cops. That's still like what, you're talking, 100 to a million. That's 100 citizens per cop. Can you imagine the amount of de-arrests that would happen with those kind of numbers? They wouldn't be able to arrest anybody. If everybody unified and went at it at once, collectively, if people organized in their local communities, if people started doing that groundwork already, but not just to organize hands up, don't shoot types of protests. I hear Rome talk about this all the time. It's like, you have to move beyond that at some point. It's going to have to get confrontational because they're bringing the confrontation to us every day, all day. There's no reason for us not to respond.
Carlos, in the third world, we never go to protest without, our cans of soup, some rocks to hold the paper that we bring, and, and some vinegar in a bandana because, vinegar smells so well, right?
Yeah, you gotta have the can of soup.
Wake the F up, America!
You gotta be well fed. You gotta have stones with you too. 'Cause, you know, it may be windy. You gotta keep your
And you put in your pocket.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share this last story, then we're gonna wrap up soon because we 90 minutes in. But I do want to cover this because this relates to the police. So this is my last segment, and then I'll give you guys thoughts, and then we wrap up. So we have been going after Eric Adams, one of the black oligarchs, and just one of many Democrats who sided with the police. Because the theme of this episode, as you guys seen with the recent mass shootings that the police have not stopped, their job is not to protect you. They will not protect you. They do not protect you. Their job is to serve capital, which is why the New York Police Department has waged a historic war on the homeless, right? So they've been in subways kicking homeless people out, and then they had a subway shooter that the increased police force didn't do anything to stop. It's clown shit to still believe in this. So this friend of the show. We actually had her on Outsiders View, Josana. We gotta have her back. Olayemi, she's incredible. So the new NYPD got $200 million added to their almost $11 billion budget. Fiscal conservatives, for the love of God, I am asking you, explain this. $11 billion for what? Do New York feel safe to you? A lot of people are like, man, New York is crime infested. You guys are spending $11 billion and it's crime infested. You guys realize how propagandized they are for they don't even connect the dots that they're being inefficient with our resources? Let me read a tweet before I go on another rant. Eric Adams reinstated historically violent and racist police units, added 1,000 more cops to the subway. Remember what I just mentioned, but they didn't stop the subway shooter. Yet crime has risen, and no one is talking about how policing doesn't translate to public safety. Big shout out to Olayemi. We got to have her back on soon. But this is exactly what we've been saying. Why? And by the way, it is not true. But I'm going to just save time, and you guys know what they've been saying, right? The defund the police movement had led to crime rates going up. You notice how even though that's not true, they repeat that? So they blame defund the police, the mythical defund the police, but meanwhile, when they spend more money on policing, they never blame, like, what? Where did you guys spend this money? Why did we guys give you so much money, but the crime is going? You see how they never ask it that way? Now, one more thing I want to share, and then I'll open it to the panel, and then I'll shut the hell up. This is a friend of the show. We got to have him back on. We have him on Nick and CJ's show. I'm going to cover this quickly because I actually just learned about this today because you don't hear it talk about. Has anyone seen the breathless news coverage of the epidemic of New York police officers arrested this year? No? There's been an epidemic. NYPD cop arrested for drunk driving. NYPD police officer indicted for attempted murder. We also know that, like, according to self-studies, like 40% of them are fucking, they engage in domestic violence, right? Former NYPD police officer sentenced for 10 years for prison for trafficking. NYPD officer arrested on Staten Island. Now, I can keep going, but you see, it's a gang. There are thugs. And also, remember the LAPD gangs that me and Zoya reported on? These are thugs in uniform, guys.
America's getting the police thugs. We got that already. It's like, I remember once in Rio to be stopped by the police and they're like, get out of the car. So if you don't give me 1,000 reais, you cannot take your car away. So it's happening with the NYPD. You all are starting to see that they are not here, the cops and the amazing heroes, that they are disgusting tools of the system and they're ready to kill us. That's what you're seeing them for. I'm in love with it. I'm happy. Because, like, it's been a while that y'all just applauding for the police state that y'all have. It's amazing, mesmerizing.
And just to speak to that point, in relationship to what Nick just showed us, we can't forget that we pay for a lot of the police lawsuits that they end up losing to people that they accidentally shoot or arrest on false grounds or frame and things of this nature. And those are hundreds of millions of dollars a year just in New York City alone that go towards resolving some of these civil lawsuits that are aimed against the police force. So not only do they fund them in terms of the gear and the manpower, but they're also funding the civil lawsuits they're anticipating will emerge from these same police forces.
Zoe,
And this is like, sorry.
No, go ahead, Josana, and then Zoe.
It's just that they start becoming this parallel power. And then when you start dealing with the parallel power, we call that militia. I know militia is something else in the US, but it would be like the mafia. But think of if the mafia was on the side of the law, was dictating the law. So these are people that already have a heavy arm of control, starting to become the parallel power. They are 800,000, yeah, and we are way more than them. But if we don't stop them right now on the rising, it's going to get to a point that is uncontrollable.
Yeah, the system operates on fear mongering. Cops spend hundreds of millions of dollars per year on PR alone. Yes. Just so they can spin these narratives. And meanwhile, cops are killing 3 people per day and solve less than 2% of major crimes. But I sent Nick some pictures of.
Yeah, you wanna introduce it? I'll pull it up.
So this is with all that funding, what cops are out actually doing.
Look how proud they are that they got a dime bag off of someone. They got some weed and they're like, oh, look at this accomplishment. I've seen so many of these photos too. But sorry, go ahead, Zoya, if you have anything else you want to add.
There's 2 more of them. Yeah, just look at what they look like. I mean, this is just someone.
I just protected and served the shit out of you. You see this blunt I apprehended from that insane criminal? Don't you feel safe?
And remember, in a lot of states, and in large part thanks to Biden, people are serving mandatory minimums. So even for these small amounts, people will get 5 years in jail.
Is that it?
Yeah, that look took 4 of them. They got a pipe.
We finally did something.
Especially if they publicize it this way, you know that person's gonna get some time thrown at them because it's been advertised.
I'm glad you brought this up because I saw so many examples just like that of them just they'll hold almost got myself in trouble. They will hold like a bag up and they were like, yeah, I'm a superhero, I'm a police officer. I'm like, you guys are psychopaths, man.
I took your edibles. You're done.
Do you guys remember that viral clip? Everyone should know about it, right? The clip of that police officer who's called 911 because they took someone's edible and they were so high. They was like, yeah, they thought we were gonna die.
The guy with his wife that they took the brownies.
Yeah, he took the brownies, and they're
on 911, and they tell the EMT or they tell the 911 people, "I think we're dead."
Wasn't that a cop who got it from?
Yeah, that was a cop and his wife.
Yeah, that it came out that was a cop who they got that shit from the fucking crime scene. Do you guys know how many times that shit happens that we probably don't know about? I bet all the time, bro. I bet you all the time.
And for the amount of money it takes to jail somebody for a year, they could pay for their college education 3 times over. So for all of the Republicans or however you align that are fiscal conservatives and all go blue and think that you're saving money, imagine if that funding was actually going to provide education or housing for the people, and it would save money rather than paying cops for completing their jobs inefficiently. And they don't actually prevent any crimes, but you could be funding community. And if you think it doesn't impact you, when people don't have any choice, that is when you create crime. Crime comes from desperation, and this system manufactures desperation.
And as a Marxist, I have vomit in my mouth as I say this, Zoya, but it speaks to your point because I'm a person that I despise. But even Thomas Jefferson said that if you want a healthy democracy, you need an educated public. You need an educated citizenry, right? So they won't cancel student debt, and they won't make education free. Like even most, Latin American countries have some form of free higher education because they want to uplift some of these nations. The United States refuses to that. They want students who are in debt to go out and get a job while they're already in the hole. But to speak to Zoya's point, that could not only that could rescue democracy, and that's why as a Marxist, I hate to say that, but it could actually rescue this country from itself if we invested in educating people on a large scale and encouraging the 2 free-year community college, if not a 4-year degree for free, in order to have a population that is educated and can engage in the conversations we're having and the people in the chat are having, so that we don't produce people like this man, this young guy who decided that he has reached his end and is going to take out some children and his grandma on the way to the school. His grandma survived, I believe, but he shot her too. She was the first.
Our society is sick. American society is sick, and they make it sick so that they can capitalize on everybody, exploit labor, whether you're behind bars or you think you're free. But I don't think there's any semblance of freedom in this society. They don't leave people any choice. They can't get health care. They can't get education. What are people supposed to do? And when you leave people with no choice, they either take these dead-end jobs or they go out and try to fend for themselves. And these dead-end jobs, the only reason people stay in them is because this education system convinces them that they're stupid. The education system here is literally designed to make you feel inept, to make you feel incapable, like it is on you. Just like Howard Dean in that video is like, it's time for us to hold the voters accountable. They always put the onus back on us and make us feel like it is our deficiency that is the problem, but it is not. Americans do not know their full potential. If you guys really got the education you deserve, you would know that you're capable of everything and you deserve everything and you absolutely have power. And someone in the comments earlier said they'll just open fire on us here. Yeah, they will, but they can't shoot everybody. And sometimes you just have to stand up for what matters, or this will only continually get worse.
And we have to know that, like, the more they understand that we are learning what we are learning, because we are making progress, we are understanding. From when I got here, Zoya, to now, I see the change. I see people like questioning more because of the great deception with the Democratic Party, right? Like when Hillary took over and Bernie couldn't be the candidate, everybody saw it. So that made more people wake up. And I see it more now. And the more they understand we know, the more they're going to tighten up their side. The more they will fund the police. They're not funding the police for any other reason than control of the state. The police is being funding because we are starting to question more and more. So we cannot be silly to not think that we don't have, like, we have power, a lot of it, and we need to push more. My example for it is like, we should just push for electoral politics reform. No one's going to vote. We want the reform. And we also, while we're camping on the streets here and not going home if we don't get what we need, we also going to demand the cancellation of student loan debt, any health related debt. That's what we're demanding as a people. And you're going to come at us, but the whole world is going to know who you are. There will be response. Because someone in the comments are, sorry.
No, I was...
I'll open up to the panel. I just want to say this. I'll pass it right back to you guys. What you guys just heard from Zoya and from Josana, that is revolutionary, not discipline, revolutionary optimism. And this is something that I want to interject into political discourse. We have been explaining to the nihilists. Yes, they are the nihilists, the electoral nihilists who believe that we are powerless. I was explaining this to Destiny. He's like, well, if you think all the politicians corrupt the electoral process, what else is there? And RBN and our comrades, I gave right to you, Carlos. We're here to explain to them that we have the power, and that's actually the empowering stance on politics. Like the other ideology of believing, oh, we gotta elect politicians. All right, what happens when you lose? What happens when your politician disappoints you? Then they're like, oh my God, there's no point, we're defeated. They don't do anything for 2 years. That's the defeatist ideology, not the ideology that we're advocating for. But I do want to get, I think Josana want to get in there, and then we get Carlos. We go in that order, Josana, then Carlos, and then we go Zoya.
No, just to say that we need. I feel like I lost the train of thought, but like we need to demand, and we have the right to do so. They need to see us demanding, and we need the courage to do so. Change only comes from us. It's listed in history.
Yeah, we can get Zoya and Carlos in here too.
Josana and I talk like this because we weren't born in this country, and
Yeah.
we come
Oh,
from
come on.
and Carlos.
Carlos,
No, it's fine. It's fine. I wasn't included. That's cool. I'm not an optimist. I embrace it.
Sorry.
You're good.
But we come from countries where people would not stand for this. Nick and I before showed something that a guy wrote from Russia about how Americans need to get into the streets, because people in other countries would never take this for a second. People have been infantilized and pacified in this country, but you have power. And unfortunately, even we saw this with the Bernie race, that so many people were talking about, burn your vest or burn it down. And then they all turned around and were like, but Trump, and voted blue anyways. That's why these shows are so important, because as much as we do observe people getting upset and Biden's approval rating is in the toilet, this system is so good at manufacturing boogeyman to get people to accept that there is no alternative and still vote for the thing that they don't want. That is the only reason that I go on here, is to radicalize people, to expose the system, and to make people understand that isn't even a choice. That is not going to give us a single goddamn thing we want. The way that Biden is administering as president is exactly how Trump would, if not worse. So in policy, we don't have any sort of differences. We have to get into the streets and demand change from the system, even above the electoral path. I mean, sure, still engage with it, but we have to go above it and stay in the streets to force the system to come to its knees and give us exactly what we need.
Carlos?
I just saw where Pilgrim there post about what's happening in Pakistan right now, and the people there are not taking it, right, in terms of what just happened there, that kind of regime change supposedly that happened through the ballot box. So I agree with both of you, and having been in a border, maybe that's what gives me away. I was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, so I'm not completely radicalized. But Nick, that's an excellent pedagogical moment to interject and just let people know, like, that's revolutionary optimism, right? That kind of utopic thinking, like we can change it and make it better. But let's also not forget revolutionary discipline in terms of, like, let's bring it back to the cause, right? So defund the police takes away funding from all these other public programs that Zoya and Josana both talked about, that ends up making us sick, right? Well, that sickness that we're talking about, that they want us to feel, that kind of hopelessness, that kind of defeatism, that kind of settling for the status quo as the only possible world we're capable of inhabit, and that capitalism cannot be eradicated, otherwise the world just erupts in pure destruction. Part of that is to go back to, like, Marx. Marx talked about this. Marx talked about the sickness that capitalists want you to constantly walk around feeling as alienation. Well, what do you think this shooter was feeling, and why do you think he took it to the school? Alienation is one of the fundamental root causes of a lot of mental health conditions in this country, but we just don't like talking about it, because then you have to ask, why are you alienated, and what are you alienated from? And before you know it, you're alienated from your own labor, your own time, your own agency, your own body, your own health, the people you love, the things you like doing with your life, with your existence. Why? Because you have to go work a bullshit job to pay bullshit bills for things that are basic natural necessities.
Josana, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I remembered and I took a note of what I wanted to say. Somebody commented before that the revolution will come from the outside, and my thought on that is that the revolution will come from the outside, but don't wait for that, because if you don't fight, you will be seen as an accomplice of the system that you are enabling. Because if you see that this is happening, and I understand all the trauma, I have it too. But if you were seeing all the trouble, all the problems, all the abuse, and if you have power in your hands to do something to stop it, and you don't do nothing, you are enabling. So most of us in the US, for not doing nothing, we are enablers of white supremacist abuse.
Well said. I want to get A1 an opportunity to kind of wrap up the final thoughts, plug anything you want to plug. It was a fun stream. I already knew as soon as I brought the game together. We got to do this more often. I'm thinking about throwing a Saturday panel together. I'm trying to get Q on there as well. Carlos, I'm thinking I'll maybe by you if you can make it there as well. But we're gonna start doing a little bit more of these panel discussions. I wanted to Zoe. I also wanted to do because you mentioned Marxism earlier, Carlos. We was planning a Marxist panel on the anti-imperialist summit and it didn't come together. But I still want to do that, so that's something I may do here in the future.
And just one, can I just one thing, Nick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you inspired me to not be afraid to like, not teach, but like talk among friends and bounce ideas off of each other. Is this this notion of revolutionary praxis and what it's going to take? I think in many ways just requires us overcoming that kind of propaganda that we're constantly giving, or that Yosana was calling attention to, that we're complicit by not doing something, and we're meant not to do something because not doing something is behaving in this system, right? Literally, like the more you stay home and watch TV, the better American you are. There was a famous sociologist, Michel Foucault, he called it, you're a docile body. When you don't do shit to respond to the conditions of your own material alienation, you're nothing but a docile body, and you're complicit in the system that's oppressing you. So complaining about it is irrelevant if you're just going to be a docile body anyway.
Well said. So we're gonna I think we're gonna get closing statements. Now we do this, I will give you a chance to chime in and give your final thoughts, Zoya. But this is, since we were doing our another breakdown of how the police state has failed us and why we gotta abolish it. This is the organization that me and Zoya started. It's about almost 2 years now, right? It's crazy. Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, George Floyd 2 years ago. That's when we created this. So this is the road to abolition that I explained many times on the stream. I was getting into it a very, very little bit with Destiny. I didn't want to get too much in the weeds with it. I think on Friday we are covering another demand because we have our process, right? And the demands that we have as activists that we must demand from the ruling class in order to abolish the police, right? And we got this whole plan here. But Zoe, I want to pass it to you. I think what number are we on? Which one are we doing Friday?
5.
5? It's been so long. Like this, I think that's the last one we did, right? So number 5, I think we covering this on Friday. Independently investigate all police crimes and abuses of power. Once again, we got a lot of these demands which will lead us to abolition, right? So, Zoya, any last thoughts? Anything else you want to promote? This is our organization, guys.
Yeah, definitely tune in Friday. We're going to have an interesting conversation about all of this. Demand number 5 with Awkward. But I just want to quickly say on the gun control topic, because I'm sure it's going to be everywhere. That's what they do when they actually highlight these mass shootings, because they are commonplace, but they only start talking about them when they have an agenda. And I just want to say the gun control has been a wedge issue that they've been running on for decades. They have tons of laws on the books already for gun control. They are not enforced, and prohibition on anything doesn't work, whether it's abortion, whether it's gun control, whether it's drugs. Prohibition never works. The only thing that prohibition does is create crime. It makes things illegal, it criminalizes them, and guess who they're going to be throwing in jail for it? It's going to be the same communities targeted again. You never ask law enforcement to address anything because they will only turn it on us. So don't advocate for gun control, because they're only going to disarm people that they find dangerous to the system. And it isn't going to stop anything, because you can get a gun in 5 minutes just online. You cannot stop people from doing these things. We played a clip before regarding drugs where a former police officer was talking about the fact that they can't even keep drugs out of prison. And that is a secure setting. When we have an open society like this, you cannot stop people from obtaining the things that they want. You just create a black market and you create more danger around it. So it is not a leftist position to advocate for gun control. That will not stop these situations from happening. That is just the reality. What we need is a restructuring of society that actually funds community instead of cops.
Powerful statement as always. Zoe, I want to get Carlos in here. For anything you want to say to wrap up the conversation, anything?
I'm just going to piggyback off of Zoya and just say that let's not forget some of the inspirational leaders that came out of the 1960s, and none of them, most of them that were from marginalized, disenfranchised, working class, racialized communities were in favor of gun control. On the contrary, they were in favor of gun access so they could police the police. And we shouldn't forget that that actually worked so much they had to assassinate most of those leaders.
Under no circumstance, guys, under no circumstance, especially while we're under siege by white domestic terrorism, the police state, and I mentioned earlier in my original monologue, until you guys disarm the police and the military and our government, I don't want it mentioned to me. Don't bring it up to me, especially not the black community, especially not. Like, it's somehow like the white community all got together and we're like, we're gonna ban each other guns. Let me just say, I'm not gonna stop you. I'm not gonna stop you if you guys decide to do that. But for goddamn sure, you're not taking our guns. But Josana, I'm gonna get you in here.
Yesterday when we were ending our stream and we were talking about this horrible news, I had to say, because it was so strong in my heart, I was like, they will push for gun control. Reason why I stated the obvious there is that there is a need for us with voice in our community, with our neighbors, that understood already that we are heavily propagandized, should dismantle the propaganda by the minute. Otherwise, that's going to be people like celebrities singing, I am with the peace. Imagine on my cell phone. And we're going to give away our right to self-defense. And we have to be here for ourselves. We have the duty to protect each other by any means necessary. I didn't say the last sentence. One of y'all from the US said. So if we let them go, we letting our right for self-defense go too.
We got 2 hours in. It was a great show. We're gonna do it here soon. I think I'm gonna take tomorrow off. I had a long week, guys. Taking dubs for the team. Tomorrow I may do a call-in though. I may do a call-in tomorrow, so that'd be another good time to talk if you guys are down. We see what time. I'll announce the time soon. But I'll probably do a call-in tomorrow. But other than that, I'll probably need a day off on YouTube. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to support the channel, please check out the Patreon in the description. You guys can like, subscribe, and tell a friend about us as well. The algorithm, it's not a friend. So we are able to grow like we are because you guys have been sharing. I've been seeing you guys sharing our videos on Twitter, and we appreciate it. We really do. So big shout out to you guys. I love the community that we foster in here. We appreciate you guys for watching. Social Cinema, Revolutionary Blackout, sign out.